Hello, everyone, and welcome to Simple Fund 360 Education Week. My name's Anthony, and I'll be taking you through today's training on getting up to speed with SuperStream. So as you're obviously aware that we're running a number of sessions this week with the key focus to get you up to speed on Simple Fund 360. If you've missed any of these sessions or wish to re-watch some of these sessions, you'll be able to head to our BGL community and we'll be posting up the recording shortly. We'll also be running a few other sessions, so you can see there that we're at the halfway mark. So if you'd like to sign up to them, feel free to do so. Just a few housekeeping rules before we jump into the content. So you are going to be placed on listen only mode. But if you do have any questions through today's session, please use the Q&A window. And I have a number of colleagues from BGL listening in, ready to take your queries. As I mentioned, if you haven't already done so, please sign up to the BGL community. It's free to join, where you're able to connect with other like-minded professionals and share tips and tricks on how to use Simple Fund 360. We're going to jump straight into the content. And the first thing that I want to discuss is the electronic service address that is available in Simple Fund 360. So hopefully you're aware that we do have two ESAs that are available. There is one with the Australia Post, and then we've most recently added the BGL ESA. Now, there is a big point of difference between the two ESAs that are available. As you can see on the grid there, if you have signed up with Australia Post, the only data that you will receive is contribution data. Now, if you have more recently signed up to the electronic service address in Simple Fund 360 or have changed your ESA, we will support contributions, rollovers, and release authorities under the new BGL ESA. So when I move across to the software, I'll show you how to identify which fund is using the Australia Post ESA and which funds are using the BGL ESA. I'll also be pointing out how you can actually change the ESA. Now, just on the messages, just a tip before we move on, we do have a few clients that have been called up or are calling our support line, and unfortunately they're under the Australia Post ESA and they have received a rollover or a release authority message under the Australia Post gateway. Now, that will not come through under the Australia Post gateway in Simple Fund 360. So if this has happened, the only way that we can process that message in Simple Fund 360 is if you switch the Australia Post ESA to the BGL ESA. Once you've switched, what you'll need to do is contact our support team, and then we can reroute the message to the new BGL ESA, and you'll be able to process that message in Simple Fund 360. We do have a help article on that as well. So if you are writing down notes, you don't have to today. So I'll get someone in our post to just put that link up in the chat. And I'm also going to post another link in the chat just to direct you to all the resources that are available regarding SuperStream. So today you can sit back and just take it all in, as all the notes will be on the BGL help, as well as this recording will be on the community. Now, I do want to point out as well, for any desktop clients that are listening in today, you will not be able to register for the BGL ESA. So that's only for Simple Fund 360 clients will have access to the BGL ESA, and it is free and a part of your subscription to Simple Fund 360. I also want to point out that if you've migrated any funds from Simple Fund Desktop to Simple Fund 360, and you've previously signed up to an electronic service address with Australia Post, when you migrate that fund to 360, you will still have the Australia Post ESA active. And then what you'll need to do to utilize the messages for rollovers and release authority is switch the ESA from AusPost to the BGL ESA. And once again, when we get into the demonstration, I'm going to talk you through how to do that. So I'm going to open up Simple Fund 360 now, and we're going to focus on these 4 areas. And I'm going to show you the latest developments that have happened in Simple Fund 360 surrounding these type of changes. So I'm going to show you how to register. I'm going to show you how to change the ESA. I'm going to show you how to update notifications, because we get a lot of queries coming through that you've accidentally put the wrong person and they're getting notified of SuperStream messaging. So I'll show you how to update the notification. And then finally, we'll show you how to create a request and send a message, and also how to process a message that you may have received. So with that being said, I'm just going to flick over to Simple Fund 360 now. And I've logged into Simple Fund 360, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to navigate to the main menu on the left-hand side and hover over Connect. And we're going to focus all our attention on the SuperStream dashboard. Now you'll see there that there is a registration page. Everything that's in the registration page can now be done all directly from the SuperStream dashboard. Okay, so registrations can now be done directly from the dashboard. Eventually, we'll be closing down the SuperStream registration page. So it's a one-stop shop now from the dashboard, and that's where I'm going to head to. So like I said, I'm going to have a look at how to actually register funds. But before we do that, if it's new to you, I'm just going to quickly go over the screen and some of the functionality that's available from this screen. So you'll see that it's broken out into 2 columns. You've got action required that opens up as the default on the dashboard. And this will show any funds that you've received a message for where you need to process or action a particular outcome for SuperStream, whether that would be a rollover that's come in, a release authority, or you've got some contribution data coming through. You'll see it under the action required. Then you've got your all funds. So I'm going to switch it across to the all funds filter, and you'll see there that it'll list all your funds. And from this screen, you'll have your fund details, what the ABN is. And as I mentioned before, you'll have a filter to identify which funds are using the BGL ESA as well as the Australia Post ESA. So you'll see here, we've got the BGL SF 360 ESA, and I can put that filter on, and I've quickly identified which funds have switched over to the BGL ESA. So what does that mean? If I go back to my slideshow, under the BGL ESA, I will have support in Simple Fund 360 to process the following messages: contributions, rollovers, and release authorities. So let's go back into 360. And if I want to identify which funds are signed up with Australia Post, and I want to identify if I want to move them across to the new BGL ESA, under the ESA drop-down message, I can tick that I want to highlight the funds that with Australia Post. And you can see there that that filter will automatically apply, and I'll be able to switch these particular funds if I want to across to the BGL ESA. And I'll talk you through that in a second. So I'm just going to clear these filters now. So I'm going to have a look at a few other screen features.
Sorry, just need to reshare your screen because we can only see the PowerPoint.
Okay, give me a sec. Why is it doing that? So hopefully that's fixed up the share.
Oh, good.
Can you confirm that you can see 360?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, awesome. Sorry about that, guys. So we're back into Simple Fund 360 and I'm in the SuperStream dashboard. And from here, you can see here, I was just talking about the ESA filter here. So you've got the BGL SF360 filter and the AusPost SF360 filter for the ESAs. All right, so we've got our all funds filter. I'm just going to show you another feature in the dashboard, and it's the export button here. So I'm just going to click on the export, and you'll see there that there is a SuperStream summary report, and this will be released today. So I'm just going to click on it, and this will give you a summary in Excel format, giving you a overall coverage of those two tabs. So you can see there that it's listed all my funds, and it's just showing all the details that is available in that particular dashboard. So I'm going to go back into 360 and hopefully you can see my screen. We've also got other filters at the top here where you can narrow down your search by the fund name, and you've got a drop down menu there as well, whether or not you can filter on what's not registered and funds that are registered. So let's go through the first step of showing you how to register a fund. So I've identified on my database that I've got two funds that haven't been registered with SuperStream. And I want to register these funds. So I'm going to flag both of these funds at the top. You can do one or many, and I'm going to hit the register button. Now you'll see here that this screen has been redesigned, and you can quickly see what relationships will be notified when either a contribution or a rollover hit the gateway. So you can see here, I've got the funds register me and RegTech, and I've got my relationship to the fund and who I want to select to be notified. Now, if I use this drop-down menu and say I want to make sure that the accountant is notified, I can select accountant, and you'll see there, based on the fund relationship, it's going to pre-populate that information. So you have that transparency now as to who's actually going to get notified of it, or who the email recipients are for either a contribution or a release authority. Now, if you only want to be notified for rollovers and release authorities, you can turn off the contribution notification as well. So we have made improvements to how you wish to be notified. Now, you'll see here that there's a copy button as well. So what that allows you to do is, if you've got multiple funds selected, I can click on this copy button and confirm it, and you'll notice that it'll copy that relationship to the other funds. So if you're working on a global scale, that's definitely going to save you time to copy that relationship across to multiple funds. My next step with the registration process, once I've put in who I want to be contacted, is to simply hit the validate button. And you'll see here, once I hit validate, it does a check on the data. So it does a quick integrity check, and you can see there that it's passed all the validations and all the data is in there. And I can move on to hit the register button and click OK. Okay, so it's that simple and that easy to register. So you can see here, my not registered has gone to 0, and those funds will now appear as registered on my list. So you've got the Register Me Super Fund, and that's been registered. Don't forget that under the drop-down menu for export, you do have notification letters built into Simple Fund 360 that you can prepare for those funds. So there's the trustee notification letter and the employer notification letter. And the employer notification letter will need to be passed on to the trustee's employer, just to notify them of the ESA and bank account details so they can update their payroll systems. So I'm going to head back to the dashboard, and we've gone through the registration. I also just want to point out that any new registrations will only use the BGL ESA. Okay, so you can only register now in Simple Fund 360 under the BGL ESA. What about funds that are using the Australia Post ESA? How do I get them across to the new BGL ESA? Well, using the drop-down menu, I'm going to do a filter on all funds that are using Australia Post ESA. You can see there that I've identified these 5 funds. And what I want to do is I want to flag all these funds. So you can do it in bulk or you can do it one at a time. And I'm going to click on the Change ESA button. Now you'll notice that all those 5 funds will show, and it's just for you to cross-check that you want to actually change those funds. But there are other things that you need to do other than the software change. And I'm just going to open up this help file and put it in the chat so everyone has this as a resource. But once you do change the ESA on Simple Fund 360, you do need to once again notify the employer that there is a new ESA so they can update their payroll system. And you can just simply use the letter that's available in Simple Fund 360. And you will also need to notify the ATO that there is an ESA change. Okay, so this help points you to the right location on where you need to go to change that ESA with the ATO. So tax agents that are listening in, you can do that through your portal or online services. Through the software, it's very simple to get you switched over to the new BGL ESA. So I'm just going to click on Change ESA. And once again, that has refreshed those particular funds to the new BGL ESA. So I'm just going to refresh my screen. And you can see there that all those funds now are using the BGL ESA. Don't forget when you do change it over, as I mentioned, and as outlined in the help, to tell the employer and also update the ATO with the new ESA. What I'm going to cover now is we've had a lot of support queries come through of trustees receiving email notifications when contributions hit the gateway, or if there is a rollover, they're also getting notified. So how do we actually adjust these notifications for funds that have been previously registered? And what I'm going to do is just take you through the process. So let's just say that we've got the BGL Training Fund SMSF. You'll notice that we've added on screen here an update notification button. So I'm just going to select that. And similar to what you saw before, it's going to show the fund and the ABN. But across to that, you'll see there that you've got your email recipient. So we've got the accountant relationship, their email address, and the notification settings. Now, if that particular user just wants to be notified for contributions, then you can turn off the rollover or release authority toggle there. If that user doesn't want to be notified at all, well, then you can just point to the menu item and remove them from the notifications. Now, you do have the same option as before with the global copy button as well. So if you've got more than one fund selected, you'll be able to update that accordingly using that copy button. If you want to add additional recipients, you can see here that you've got an add new email recipient, and it's just simply selecting the relationship that you wish to add. So if I select, say, the financial planner, you'll see there that those details will populate from your fund details relationship screen. And now the financial planner will be updated. Obviously, it's the same person with the accountant and the financial planner. But it's pretty simple now to identify the users that will be notified using the SuperStream dashboard. Okay, so how do we actually process messages? And that's the final task that I'm going to take you through today. So through the All Funds screen, if I want to create a message for a particular fund, I can select the fund and it'll change to a fund view at the top here. Okay, so now in the fund view, these tabs are specifically related to the fund that you've selected. So if I go to the SuperStream rollover release authority section, you can see there that there's been a number of roll-ins processed for this particular super fund. If anything's been archived, you'll be able to click on the archive and see previous transactions as well. But how do I initiate a message for this particular fund? Well, you'll see at the top here, there is a request a rollover button. So I'm going to select that. And you need to work out whether or not it's the receiving fund. So you're receiving, let's say, a rolling, or if you're the transferring fund. So you're processing a transfer out of the super fund. So this is the first message to initiate a message within 360. So if I'm the transferring fund in this example, I'm just going to click transferring fund. You'll see here that it opens up an on-screen form, and it's just about pre-populating this on-screen form based on who the member is in the super fund, who's the receiving fund, who's the transferring fund, the amount, and then just submitting that across. And that message will be sent through the ESA gateway. Now, once you've created that message, you will be prompted with a payment reference number. So we see a few messages on support pop up that the ESA had, or the message has been rejected. Now, for the transfer out, you will be given a payment reference number at the end once you've gone through the process, but you can also identify the payment reference number in the dashboard. So you can see here that we have a column there that identifies the payment reference number. Now that needs to be entered in the description for the payment. Okay, so when the trustee is processing the rollover in or the transfer out, they will need to use that payment reference number, as it is a reason to actually reject a message if it does not match. So we see that as an important point, and we always see that come through on support. So what I'm going to take you through is actually how to process one of these messages now. So I'm going to go back to my dashboard, and under the action required, you can see there that I have my two funds. So let's talk you through how to actually process one of these messages. So I'm going to go to the transfer in, and you'll see there that in the column, there is a transaction in blue. And that just shows you that there is a message that's been received in this particular case, and action is required. Now, to process this message, I'm going to just click on the blue status. And once again, it just brings the online form to screen where you're reviewing the current event. So all that information that was populated by the transfer out fund has come through in this message. I can download it to a report if need be, if you want to have a look at it at a report level. But you can see here that we're just more or less having a look at the message that's come through and the amount. And you can see at the bottom here, I can actually reject this amount. So that will go back to the transferring out fund that this message has been rejected. So if I click on reject, you'll see here that there are a number of reasons for the rejection using the drop-down menu. As I mentioned before, one of those reasons would be that the reference number does not reconcile to the payment. Or you can see there that there are a number of other reasons, whether or not the member details might not match up with what the APRA fund may have. And we've seen that come through the support chat quite a bit as well. So say, for example, we'll run with the payment reference number. You can see here we can obviously add to that reason, and we can also refund the amount, and we can use the original reference number or even generate a new reference number for that rejection. And then we can hit the reject button. Now, if we're accepting the amount, so everything comes through and we actually want to process this roll in, I can hit the process button and we're going to just select OK to that action confirmation that everything is correct. You'll notice there that the roll in transaction status will switch to white color and show that it has been processed. But I just want to show you what it does on a transaction level for you as well. So I'm going to head into accounting and navigate to my transaction list. Now that transaction will be available in your transaction list. It takes a minute or so to create this transaction. So here's one that I have prepared a bit earlier, but it brings through the transaction. It creates the debit and credit for you. So in this case here, it was a transfer in. So it's going to the 285 member account. And it goes to a member data clearing account. So if you have bank feeds enabled and that transfer in is received through a bank feed, the system will automatically reconcile that for you. Obviously, if you don't have bank feeds enabled, then you'll need to put in the contra entry to your bank. Following this across, we've just recently added the paperclip icon to the transaction. So if you ever see this, that means that there is a source document attached to the transaction. So I'm going to click on that paperclip icon and it'll bring me to the new document screen. And we've recently just run another webinar on the document screen. So if you haven't seen that webinar, head over to our community and you'll be able to watch the rerun of that particular webinar. But that report, if I click on it, will be the SuperStream rollover release authority summary. So that is now attached to the transaction. And I also want to point out that when you are at your year end and you're in reports and creating the working paper, that particular report will form part of your working paper as well. So it is there to save you some time. So just to summarize what we have covered today, we've gone through how to register your fund with the new BGL ESA. We've gone through how to change your ESA. And more importantly, we've gone through how to process a message. So that wraps up today's training. It was a quick session, but if you have to leave, I want to thank you for your time. And don't forget to sign up to the remaining sessions on Simple Fund 360 Education Week.